Family, as we continue that biblical discourse, as I was looking at Genesis 47, I saw some few principles that resonated with me. I was like, my goodness, could this be a recipe on how we emancipate ourselves? Because now, here's what happened. Pharaoh was having a conversation with Jacob, Israel, and he asked him, what do you do? And he said, I'm a farmer. And therefore, the sons are farmers as well. So number one, I saw that, oh my goodness, we transfer skill to the next generation. We do not transfer titles. So what I do on a Monday to Friday, I should be able to transfer it to the next generation, my sons and daughters. So if wherever I work, I'm not able to take that skill home with me and transfer it to my children, then I should use the weekend. I should find whenever I'm off or the time where I knock off, I should develop a skill whereby I will be able to transfer it to the next generation. Use my garage or, to learn a skill, carpentry or whatever, painting, that I'll be able to transfer to my children. Those that will not go to university. Take, for example, fixing a car. Buy a test. I think it's the most simplest car to fix, I think. Buy a test, get a test, and work on it to a point where I'm able to become a mechanic. For sure, one needs to go to school or be in the presence of those that know how to fix. But the point that I'm trying to drive home here is we need to develop skills that we can transfer to the next generation. We need to sacrifice fun. So the weekends where we have fun, there has to come a time about we sacrifice the fun so that we learn a skill and we transfer it to the next generation. And at least they've got a legacy to point to. So as I was looking at that, and I started looking at Jewish families, to say Joseph, the father of Jesus, he was a carpenter. Therefore, Jesus Christ was known as the carpenter's son. So that was the skill transfer. Peter was a fisherman. That for me indicates that his father was a fisherman. So therefore, he was able to employ and deploy his own children. So can we say that about us in this generation? That yes, I'm a medical technologist, but beyond that, will I be able to employ and deploy my children in that space? If not, I need to develop a skill. I need to develop something that I'll be able to say, you know what, I'm transferring it to my sons and daughters. That's the first thing I saw when Pharaoh asked Joseph and the sons, what do you do? And he said, if there's anyone among you who's got wisdom, who's got a special skill, who knows something about agriculture, farming, that we might not have knowledge about, come through, show yourself. So when you work on a skill, when you work on something over a period of time, you start developing a certain knowing. You start operating at that level, but you know how to do this thing better than everybody else. So I think if we become attention to detail, that 10,000 hours whereby you become a professor, a master of that particular skill. So as we continue, so now, verse 9, Pharaoh asks Jacob, Israel, how old are you? And he says, my year of pilgrimage is 120. But as I was looking at that word, I was like, my goodness, I think no word or sentence is in the Bible accidental. So now, pilgrimage has to do with, he said, here being on earth, it's a pilgrimage. Because we know we are passing through, we are going to go back to where we belong. I think we've used it in such a way that we are passing through. We are foreigners here on earth, we are going to go back to heaven. I think that's how it has been explained, the issue of being a pilgrim. But as I was studying that, man did not fall from heaven. So heaven is not our destination, but earth. I think the book of Revelation says he's going to create a new earth. Once Armageddon and all these things is said and done, the devil has been defeated, and all those things that are happening in Revelation, that's said and done. It tells us he's going to create a new earth in which we will be placed back in with new bodies and all those things. So now, heaven is not our final destination. We will pass through heaven but not stay there because man was created for earth. Heaven is God's throne. Earth is where man's dominion is. But man was created for dominion. Man was created to worship and dominate the earth, So that's what I was looking at it. So, but the closer I looked at it, here's what I saw once again. That our pilgrimage, remember, we fell to the flesh. So how long have you been to flesh. On the flesh. We fell from heaven to the flesh. Because the head, the mind of man thinks of higher thoughts, thinks of heavenly thoughts. So we'll say that's the heaven. So how long have you been in the flesh? Your pilgrimage, so that you work your way up back to the heavens. You walk your way up, back up to where you belong, and the third dimension. In my Father's house, there are many mentioned. So as I was looking at that, how long is your pilgrimage going to be? As long as we are not being taught correctly, so you find yourself, you are operating at Egypt, you're operating at the flesh, or operating at the outer court. You don't get to experience the presence of God in your life. When people are falling, speaking in tongues, people are enjoying, feeling the presence of their Father, you are at the outer court, you are cold, because you are operating at the wrong dimension. Because one, ignorance, or you have not been taught to understand that the Bible has to do with you. It has to do with your pilgrimage. That we fell from dominion, we fell from the third dimension, and we find ourselves operating in the flesh. We find ourselves operating on earth. Right, family? That's the other thing that I saw. So as we continue, when we continue Genesis 47, I saw Matthew 10, verse 16 being explained by what Joseph was doing. So here's what I mean. So when you turn to Matthew 10, 16, it says, I am sending you to among wolves as sheep. So you need to be meek as doves, but shrewd as serpents. So I started thinking, what does this mean? So when I was studying Genesis 47, the latter part, where Joseph was dealing with those people in a shrewd manner. I think as believers, we have mastered meekness, right? I think we have mastered the meekness part of our belief system. But the shrewd side, go study Genesis 47, the latter part. So now, the famine is happening. Number one. So people started giving, I've highlighted it, they started giving money to get the maize and the food, right? So the money got finished. Joseph took all of it. He did not care whether you are a citizen of what's this place, Egypt, or the neighboring countries. The only people who had the exception here was his family. That's something else. But everybody else, he took all the money. Once he was done with all the money, he said, give me your livestock and I'll give you maize. Look at the shrewdness. He was not affected by it. Say, you know what? Oh man, these are the citizens of Egypt. Let us give them some food. No. He is running a corporation. He's running a business for Pharaoh. He's a steward. So he needs to run in a profitable manner. This is why I always ask myself, why is the church an NPO, non-profit organization? Because Christ is for profit, Whenever you see Christ, you would see in scriptures, he is for profit. Here's another one. You can always say Joseph is a shadow of Christ. But as we continue, after the livestock was finished, here's an interesting factor. He had enough food for the people and the livestock. Look at when God says he will operate, John 10:10, in abundance. The abundance was not just for him and his family and Pharaoh's household, it was for the citizens, and after the citizens, even the livestock of the citizens, and even the neighboring countries, So, abundance, John 10:10. I have come so that you may have life and life in abundance to the full. I think we need to start operating in that sphere, the third dimension. So after the livestock, he went for their land. Go read that. You will see that he took their land to a point where, okay, all your land will belong to Pharaoh. I'll give you the food. Remember in the previous chapter, I spoke about we need to be careful on how we deal with food. To a point where food does not control you, to a point where you sell your land. You sell yourself. Because after they sold the land, they sold themselves. And they became slaves to Pharaoh. All because of the man of God. Yeah? Look at the shrewdness. So as I was looking at the Matthew 10:16, be as shrewd as serpent. I was like, my goodness. This chapter explains Matthew, what Jesus Christ was talking about. So yes, as I was looking at it. So family, I think we can extrapolate some few principles here. Like when we are dealing with, he says, I'm sending you into the world where there's wolves. We need to have a spirit of discernment that we are dealing with wolves. Therefore, we need to be shrewd as serpents to a point whereby we deal with them. Maybe we need to make that a template. When you deal with people, this is how you deal with the people of the world, so that we stop being taken for granted for. They stop using us as doormats. Use Joseph's template to say, this is how you deal with people of the world.